Mikaela, thank you again so much for joining us. We appreciate your time, and congratulations are in order. You're now the winningest alpine skier in the history of the sport, male or female. So could you talk about how that makes you feel and what this past season has been like? Like, I can't imagine being in your position, so how does it feel for you?
It's pretty wild. It's not a position I ever really expected to be in, or even like I wouldn't even say that I was striving to reset the all-time wins records, because I don't know, for me the sport, it's about so much more than even the wins and the records and the titles. Of course, I'm competing, I'm in it to win, but at the same time, so much of it is about the work that it takes to get to the place where you can win, and so much of it has become about the platform that I've developed and can use to help inspire the next generation of athletes, and influence them in a way that's maybe different and new from previous generations, and being honest and bearing my soul, and all of these things um, that are, I don't know, that are true to my own values. That's even more meaningful than the title itself, I guess.
Yeah. What were some of the biggest lessons you learned during the course of your historic season?
Uh, I mean, this has been a lesson I've been learning. I've kind of, I guess I'm in the process of learning it. I don't know if I'll ever. Sometimes, sometimes I feel like I kind of reinvent the wheel a little bit, and I have to learn lessons over and over and over again. But I feel like I have a greater understanding that, like, how often things don't go your way, and what it means to actually be resilient in the face of failure, or hardship, challenges, injuries, loss, grieving, mental struggles, and that resilience doesn't necessarily mean being strong or not feeling pain or not feeling fear. It more has to do with just being able to bounce back, or being able to withstand the difficult times. It's not like life isn't just comfortable and wonderful all the time. And we talk about, like, lately I've been talking a lot about winning my 88th race and how amazing that is, and you know, winningest ski racer of all time. Like, what a cool title that is. And it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking everything's just great, and it's been great, and it will be great forever. And that's not the case. And I think in these moments, it's really important to kind of um, have the perspective and bring myself back down to the ground, remembering that there's struggle too. And the only reason you get to the successful times is because of times that you've struggled as well.
Yeah. And one of the names you passed a few months ago on the way to the top of that list was Lindsey Vonn. Could you talk about some of the ways she was an inspiration to you growing up, and what it was like skiing alongside her over the years? Because for some crazy reason, Lindsey takes a lot of heat from fans, and I know many of them were quick to troll her on social media when you passed her on the all-time list, and which is wild to me considering how much she's done for the sport. But that said, you know, she was quick to put a lot of people in their place. So what would be your message to the haters out there, and what has she been able to do for you being able to ski alongside her?
Yeah, I mean, I think something that inspires me, especially lately, is the conversation, especially among women, about lifting each other up versus tearing each other down. And the world of social media, and kind of often media in general, but I think it more has to do with fans of the sport. It's a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, no matter what I accomplish, there are so many people who are always going to say Lindsey is the greatest of all time, and she is their greatest. And that's what I love about sport, is actually that you basically get to choose what your values are, what determines your own personal greatest of all time in any sport, um, like any gender, whatever it is, you get to decide what's important to you. But on the other side of the sword, like, people often pit, whether it's me or in Lindsey or any athlete, especially women athletes, often people pit us against each other. And for me, that's always been that I don't get what the end game is, because I feel like it's only hurtful. It's hurtful to her, or it's hurtful to me. Ever since I came onto the World Cup circuit, people were telling Lindsey that I was the next Lindsey. And I don't think that was like an easy thing for her to hear, because she was in the prime of her career, shooting for actually resetting this record, and doing so much to pave the way for females in ski racing. To basically, like, what I've noticed lately is when she was in the final stages of her career, going for this record, shooting to reset it, so much of the talk was basically about, a female having the title. And for me, this past season, there's been a lot less talk about the gender specifically side of it, and so much more talk about just the record itself, and having an athlete in ski racing who was even close. Like, I feel like you only get to that point where the gender's taken out of it completely because of the females who have come before you. So I know that there's constantly haters. I experienced it a lot at the Olympics last year, but there's also so many supporters, and you kind of have to handle it any way that you can. That just helps you kind of get through those moments where you feel like the haters are really lashing out at you for whatever reason. But at the same time, you have to realize how much support there is as well. And you can't make everybody happy. So it's not actually worth trying. It's more important to be true to your own values and make yourself happy.
Well, these days in sports, we love to throw around the word GOAT, greatest of all time, and you certainly have earned that title. So I want to see how humble of a person you are right now. Would you consider yourself the GOAT of alpine skiing?
You totally fed that. I definitely don't.
That's crazy.
Well, first of all, I find the term GOAT to be interesting. Of course, the meaning behind it is insanely flattering, but all I can really see is like a picture of baby goats screaming, or like baby goats running around. And for me, that's the image that pops up. The more I talk about that, the more it pops up, and I'm like, this is just the weirdest. I get what you're saying, but somehow I'm just seeing baby goats.
I know what videos you're talking about,
Yeah.
the goat screaming.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's kind of where my mind goes. And then it's actually kind of distracting. Like, as you can see, I'm totally distracted right now, not actually answering the question. But I don't. I feel like, I actually feel that the term, or the idea of whoever the greatest of all time is in sport, it is disputable no matter what I accomplish. Okay, maybe I have the record for the most winning World Cup ski racer of all time. Sure, I can accept that. That happened, got it. But I don't think that necessarily directly translates to being the greatest of all time. And that, for me, that's always going to be disputable no matter what I accomplish, because it like I said before, it just depends what each fan individually finds to be the most important thing to watch, and what they find to be the most impressive thing. And it could be any number of things, because ski racing is so full of variables and incredible athletes over the years that have performed. So it's, yeah, I guess the long story short is I do not consider myself that. You
recently partnered with one of the greatest of all times of sports gear, Adidas. So could you talk about why you chose to partner up with them?
Adidas has been one of the most exciting partnerships that I've begun in the last few years. I feel like the brand represents my values and beliefs so much, and it's so much about resilience. It's so much about using your platform for a greater purpose than simply making athletic wear. It's like branching beyond that and having a purpose. And being resilient and not just talking the talk, but actually finding ways to truly, I don't know, practice what you preach. They have their mission in reducing marine plastic, and they have their campaign to help make accessibility to outdoors so much easier, especially for people in inner cities, and recycling gear, recycling shoes, using 3D printing on a different levels to make it more sustainable in production. There's so many incredible initiatives. And I remember first visiting Adidas HQ. Of course, we call it Adidas, but in Europe, like the actual pronunciation, this is the first thing I learned. It's Adidas, but it sounds so strange.
I've heard a
And
few
it doesn't,
Australians say it that way. I didn't know it was a
yeah,
European thing. I was like, did they say? Okay,
well,
Adidas.
because the brand, you probably don't know this. Most people probably don't. The
Teach
name
me.
actually comes from the brothers who started the company, and one of them was named Adi Dassler. So that's where it comes from. It doesn't mean all day I dream about sports, but that's become like a whole different part of the brand. So I
See,
was
you're
mind
teaching
blown.
me stuff.
Yeah, now I'm teaching you stuff.
I love
Hopefully
it.
everybody learns something new when they're watching this. Anyway, the first time that I visited the headquarters, we went through like so many of their plans for the future, plans on sustainability, plans on like parlay and all of the different projects that they have going on. And it actually completely opened my mind and inspired me in a way that I had not really felt to that point. It inspired me to think about how I can use my platform and find um, positive ways to use my own voice that I've developed through ski racing to actually advocate for things that are more meaningful for me beyond just the titles and the wins and the records. It's about so much more than that. And it set an example and it blew my mind. And I was like, well, you guys, like, you're not just making gear. Like, this is you're doing so much more than that. And this is something I truly want to be part of.
Hey, sports fans, if you want to see more conversations with athletes and stars, check out these videos right here and be sure to subscribe for more from USA Today Sports.